Okay, so we're going to go over Lesson 1, the Industrial North. This is on page 428 in your textbook. Don't forget you want to do thieves, so take a moment. If you want to pause the video, you can do that. But you want to look over the title, headings, introduction, every first sentence in each section, visuals and vocabulary, end of article or end of chapter questions, and you want to summarize that. Summarize your thinking. Just basically, you kind of look it over, what is it about, and you use all of these as clues. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, this is Chapter 12, North and South, Lesson 1, Industrial North. So again, that's a clue for what the reading's about. It's going to be about the North and the Industrial North, industry factories. So you can see, let's look at some of the pictures, visuals. You see some of the smokestacks right there, so it's a factory. So more about this picture. Lowell, Massachusetts was home to many textile mills because of the site's location on the Merrimack River and closeness to other resources. So let's look at questions. Essential question. How does the technology change the way people live? And we see the vocabulary word innovation. Look at other headings. Technology and industry. How technology and industry changed during the 1800s. 3 phases of industrialization. So we see industry a lot, so we know that's a very important keyword. It's in the title. See different versions of it. Industrial, industry, industrialization. So that's a key part of this lesson for lesson 1. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, essential question. How does technology change the way people live? The story begins. The Industrial Revolution began in the 1700s in Great Britain and carried into the mid-1800s. The U.S. economy was based much more on agriculture and natural resources. However, it quickly became necessary for the United States to develop its own industry and technology in order to produce enough goods and resources and transport them. The United States contributed several important inventions to the Industrial Revolution, including the cotton gin and a system for making interchangeable parts. The 1860 U.S. Census reported, with unlimited raw material at hand to supply almost every variety of manufacturers, with a railway system completely connecting every important point east of the Mississippi, and rapidly extending so as to carry the work to the Pacific, with a line of river and canal communication reaching the principal interior marts of the country, we have the elements and the means within ourselves of a domestic trade of surpassing value, and with a river and ocean commerce equal to 30,000 vessels, the United States have become a formidable competitor for the lion's share of the trade of the world. So basically, in the census, we look at how many people are, what resources we have, how the country's doing, and in this, the census is very favorable. It's basically saying that we have lots of resources, we have a lot of potential to really do well in the world economy, to do a lot of trade, and to make a lot of money because we have so many resources and good transportation. Alright, so let's look at analyzing key ideas and details. At the top of page 429, development of industrialization. So you see there's a phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Analyzing key ideas and details. Read carefully to identify the 3 phases of the development of industrialization in the North. Use a diagram like the one shown to describe those phases. Which phase led to mass production? And again, we have these questions over here on the side, number 1 and 2, analyzing key ideas and details. Number 1, identifying steps. According to the text, what was the process that brought more settlement to the Midwest? Number 2, determining central ideas. Summarize the main idea of the section, communications breakthroughs. Okay, so let's take a look at the heading, technology and industry, and guiding question, how did technology and industry change during the 1800s? The early years of the 1800s saw much innovation in industry and technology. The ways in which Americans worked, traveled, and communicated underwent great change. In 1842, the British writer Charles Dickens traveled to the United States and wrote about his trip in a book called American Notes for General Circulation. In his book, Dickens described these changes, noting how mechanized production in factories had begun to replace skilled craftspersons. The new ways of working and living affected the whole nation, but their effects were most dramatic in the North. So innovation, we want to look for inventions, changes in industry, factories. The 3 phases of industrialization. Before industrialization, workers made most goods one item at a time, from start to finish. To make clothes, a woman might spin the thread, weave the cloth, then cut and sew the fabric. Industrialization changed that way of working. The North industrialization took place in 3 phases. During the first phase, employers divided jobs into smaller steps. For example, one worker would spin thread and nothing else. Another worker wove cloth. Each worker specialized in one step and became an expert in it. 2 specialized workers could produce more cloth than if each worker did both tasks. So it just became faster. Instead of somebody trying to do 2 things to create one product, it became faster to have 2 people each do one thing. So that way, if they're more focused on one task, they can just do that task a lot quicker and get a lot more of that task done. And the other person can focus on the other task, and they get a lot more of that done, and they put it together, they can get more done more quickly. So it just became faster to do specialized tasks. So people started doing jobs in smaller pieces. On the next paragraph. During the second phase of industrialization, entrepreneurs built factories to bring specialized workers together. This allowed the product to move quickly from one worker to the next. So now we got more factories so people can just pass on the work. That you finish one piece of work, give it to the next person, they can complete the next step. Let's look at the next paragraph. In the third phase, workers used machines to complete tasks. For example, machines called looms wove cloth using the power of flowing water. The machines worked much faster than any human could. The worker's job changed from weaving to tending the machine. So we have more and more machines completing work. Mass production of cloth began in New England in the early 1800s. Then Elias Howe invented the sewing machine in 1846. Workers can now make clothing in mass quantities by using machine-made fabrics and sewing machines. Similar changes were transforming other industries and affecting the North's economy. By 1860, the Northeast factories made at least 2/3 of the country's manufactured goods.